a topic that everybody is talking about it now, which is the interview that you've done with the Syrian prisoner, and how, I would like you to take us through the steps. How did you find this man, and how did you pick this prison in specific in Syria?
So we had a list of 3 or 4 prisons that we wanted to visit. We were looking for an American journalist, Austin Tice, who was captured by the regime back in 2012. We had spent a day at Sednaya prison. We had spent a day at the Palestine branch. And then we wanted to go to the Air Force Intelligence Headquarters. And I think it's important to note that nobody knew that we were planning to go to this prison. We hadn't asked anybody for permission. We hadn't even told the Syrian translator who we were working with that we were planning to go. And when we arrived at the prison, there were a couple of guards in the front, and one guard let us in and agreed to let us look around for Austin. We looked through a number of cells. They were obviously all empty. We didn't see anything. And then one of my colleagues found a cell that was kind of off to one side down a little hallway that was still padlocked shut. And one of my other colleagues climbed up to look through a vent and could see a pile of blankets. And so we asked the guard what was in that cell and why was it locked. He tried to unlock it. He couldn't. He shot the lock off the door and opened the door. And we walked into the cell, and you've seen that moment where we saw the blanket move. And honestly, it was kind of petrifying because I didn't know who or what was underneath it. And then the guard lifted the blanket, and this man came out and told us that he was a civilian, that he had been imprisoned for 3 months in 3 different prisons, that he was from Homs, and that his name was Adel Kharbal. And we now know that man's name was not Adel Kharbal, and that he lied about his identity. We did check his name, obviously, when we got back from shooting the story, but nothing showed up because it was a fake name. And then the minute we found out who this man really was, and we started to see reports from people in Homs after our story came out, we began following and trying to put together a better picture of who he was, and we put out our reporting on that story.
And when you saw these comments on social media, Clarissa, were you surprised? Did you have any doubts about this man?
So the first comments I saw on social media when the story came out was, this was staged, this was fake. And of course, this story was not staged. It happened exactly as you see it happen. It was astonishing, and I can recognize that, but it was not staged. And it's important as well that people understand that what is at dispute here is not whether this man, who we now know as Mohammed Salama, he was imprisoned. This we have found out. This has been reported by Verify Syria as well. So he was imprisoned, and it was not staged. But obviously, when people started raising comments, hold on, I've seen that man in the city of Homs, and he is with Air Force intelligence. He's a lieutenant. He runs a checkpoint. That we take extremely seriously and immediately start reporting to get to the bottom of it. What disturbs me now, honestly, is this is devastating. When I found out who this man really is, I felt sick to my stomach. This man had been clinging to me. I had been an emotional support by virtue of being a human being in that situation and not knowing who he was. But when I see that people are still talking about it being fake or staged, this is really, really distressing to me, because we would never do this, ever. I don't even think it would be possible. And because we do now have very clear information on who this man was, and the fact that he was indeed being held in this prison for at least a month, and before that in prisons in Homs. And, something else I just want to add, because in the kind of furor and the backlash that has come out as a result of this, one thing that I really take very seriously is that families of people who have been detained and disappeared and killed inside Assad's dungeons have been upset by this report. That pains me, like, anjad min jua qalbi. And really, that was never, ever the intention. And there's nothing I can say except that I am so committed to telling the stories of how these people were viciously taken and what is happening to them now and where their remains will be, those who were killed, and how the path for justice can be ahead for the Syrian people. So I just hope that people understand that.